At my father's funeral, the priest stopped mid-prayer and said, "There's a problem." My uncle stood up and shouted, "This ceremony is an insult to our ancestors." My mother gasped, "Please, not now." But my uncle pulled out an old document and said, "Your husband changed his religion before he died, and you kept it a secret from everyone." My hands trembled as I read the paper and realized why my father had been hiding the truth all these years. This happened about 3 months ago in Chicago, and honestly, I haven't been the same since. I'm a 37-year-old man, oldest of 3, and my dad passed away from a stroke in January. It was sudden. He was 67, healthy for the most part, didn't drink much, never smoked, always tried to stay active. The call came at 4:17 a.m. My mom was the one who found him. By the time the paramedics came, he was already gone. So yeah, we planned a Catholic funeral. My dad had been raised Catholic. Went to Mass when he was younger, wasn't super religious in later years, but we still did Christmas Mass, baptisms, weddings, you name it. The whole extended family is pretty traditional. Irish-American, rooted deep in the Catholic Church. We booked St. Mary's Cathedral in Chicago, where my parents got married. My dad's side of the family flew in from all over Boston, Philly, even Ireland. The day of the funeral was already heavy. Rainy, dark skies. Everything felt wrong. My mom was holding up okay at first, but my sister kept crying quietly. My younger brother stood like a statue, not saying a word. The casket was closed, lined with white roses, and a picture of my dad from last summer's family barbecue was placed on the stand beside it. He looked happy, tan, laughing with a beer in hand. Mass started like any other funeral. Father O'Malley, an older priest who knew our family for years, was leading. He gave a calm, respectful intro. Talked about my dad's kindness, his loyalty to his friends, and his quiet strength. People were nodding. It felt comforting. Then it happened. Right in the middle of the prayer, literally mid-sentence, Father O'Malley paused. He looked down, cleared his throat, and went silent for a few long seconds. At first, I thought he forgot his lines or something. He was old. But then he looked up at us, straight at my mother, and said, "I'm sorry, but there's a problem we need to address before we can proceed." Everyone got quiet, like dead silent. My first instinct. I thought maybe there was an issue with the burial plot. Maybe something went wrong with paperwork. But then, my Uncle Richard stood up. And not quietly. He stood up like he'd been waiting for this moment. He's my dad's older brother. Grew up tough. Military background. The kind of guy who still irons his jeans. Face red, jaw tight, shaking with some kind of rage I couldn't even explain. "This ceremony," he said loudly, voice echoing, "is an insult to our ancestors." People gasped. My mom flinched. My cousin Michael said, "What the hell?" under his breath. Father O'Malley held up a hand like he wanted to calm things down, but Richard kept going. He turned toward my mother, and that's when it got worse. But Richard was on a mission. We buried our father the Catholic way. Our grandfather. And now we're standing here pretending like my brother didn't turn his back on all of that. I got up and snatched the paper out of his hand. My hands were cold. I unfolded it slowly, still in shock. And yeah, it was real. A printed certificate of conversion to Islam. My dad's full name. His signature. Witnessed and stamped by some mosque in Dearborn. It was dated just 6 months ago. I couldn't speak. I turned to my mom, who was crying now, quietly but uncontrollably. "Mom, is this real?" I asked. She nodded slowly. "He told me after he came back from that business trip to Michigan. He met someone, an old friend. They talked, and he started reading, asking questions. He didn't tell anyone because he didn't want to fight. He wasn't trying to erase the past. He just changed. It gave him peace." I sat down hard. Couldn't believe what I was hearing. Father O'Malley stepped aside. "We'll pause for a few minutes to give the family time," he said. His face was pale, clearly caught off guard. The church was chaos. Some people got up and left. Some stayed, whispering. My sister was sobbing. My brother just walked out the front doors and didn't come back for a while. The document passed around quietly like some cursed letter. My Aunt Marlene said, "This is blasphemy," while others were saying, "He had a right to his beliefs." Uncle Richard wasn't done, though. "Did he want a Muslim burial?" he shouted across the church. "Did he want a janazah prayer? Do you even know what he wanted?" My mom broke. He didn't want anything. He said to keep it simple. He didn't want to upset the family. He asked me not to say anything until after. He didn't want to be buried as a Muslim or a Catholic. Just laid to rest. And suddenly I understood why she'd kept it quiet. Not because she wanted to hide something malicious, but because she knew this exact scene would happen. But it still didn't answer everything. Why the secrecy? Why not tell me? Why not say anything when we were planning the service? Why did he trust her with this and not anyone else? I had so many questions I couldn't even process them. That's where the story pauses. Because what happened next, well, that's where things really spun out. More things came out. Things about my dad's past. About what he believed. About who he had reconnected with in Michigan, and why. After the whole church scene, we ended the service early. Some folks stayed and tried to comfort my mom. Others left in awkward silence. Uncle Richard stormed out, and I saw him talking angrily to some of my dad's cousins in the parking lot. I didn't care. I was still holding the document. I went home that night with a pounding headache. My wife asked me what the hell happened, and I couldn't even explain it properly. I just kept staring at the certificate, reading my dad's signature over and over. The next morning, I went to see my mom. She looked like she hadn't slept. We sat at the kitchen table where my dad used to eat his toast and eggs every morning. That's when I asked the question that had been eating at me since the church. Mom, who did he meet in Michigan? She hesitated, looked down at her cup of tea. Then she said a name I hadn't heard in over 30 years. Her name's Farah. I blinked. Wait, Farah? Like his ex-girlfriend? She nodded. From before he met me. They were together when he was stationed overseas. In Germany, I think. She was from a Palestinian family. He told me about her once. Said it didn't work out because her parents didn't approve of him being Catholic. I felt something cold in my chest. So, you're saying he saw her again? Yes, my mom said quietly. He found her through some online alumni group. She moved to Michigan years ago. They met up while he was on a business trip last year. That's when he started reading the Quran. And you didn't think to tell us? I wanted to. I tried. But he begged me not to. He said it was just a spiritual thing. Nothing more. But it was more. Because 3 days later, I got a message from a woman named Noor. She said she was Farah's daughter. I didn't even know how she got my number. But the message was short. I'm sorry about your father. He was a good man. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. At first, I ignored it. I didn't reply. But after a few hours of staring at the name on my phone, I called her. She picked up after 2 rings. Her voice was calm, gentle. She sounded respectful. I'm not trying to cause trouble, Nurse said. I just thought you should know my mother was with your father. Not just once. For almost a year. My mouth went dry. What do you mean? They were together. Quietly. She's not the kind of woman to break up a marriage. But your father, he told her he was lost. That he didn't feel connected to his old life anymore. He said converting helped him feel honest. Did you know he was married? I asked sharply. Yes, of course. But he told my mom he wasn't planning to leave. He just needed someone who understood that side of him. I was speechless. I didn't even know if I was angry or just numb. Was it physical? I finally asked. She didn't answer right away. Then, yes. It was real. I'm sorry. I hung up without saying another word. That night, I confronted my mom. She already knew. He told me about it, she said, tears in her eyes. Right after he came home from Michigan. He said he never planned to leave me. That it was emotional, not romantic. But I knew. Of course I knew. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My dad, the man who raised us with strict rules, who said cheating was the one thing he'd never forgive, had gone behind our backs. Behind her back. And then died before facing any consequences. But it didn't end there. The next day, I got another message. This one wasn't from Noor. It was from Farah herself. She sent me a long email, explaining everything. How they reconnected. How he confessed that he'd never stopped thinking about her. How she helped him through what she called a spiritual crisis. And then at the bottom of the email, she wrote, "There's something else you need to know. He didn't just convert. He wrote a second will." My heart dropped. She attached a scanned PDF. And there it was. Dated 6 weeks before his death. A handwritten will. Different from the one filed with our family lawyer. In it, he asked for a Muslim burial and named Farah as the executor of certain personal spiritual assets. He signed it, witnessed by 2 people at the mosque, and none of us, his actual family, knew about it. I felt sick. If this was real, then we'd buried my dad in a way that went against what he truly wanted. I didn't know what to do. Do I tell my siblings? Do I confront my uncle again? Do I go to the lawyer and bring this up? Or do I leave it buried, like my father? Because the truth was coming out fast. And the more it came out, the less I recognized the man I thought I knew. I didn't sleep the night I got that email from Farah. I kept reading the will over and over again like it might magically change. But it didn't. It was real. His handwriting. His damn signature. It even said what he wanted done with his body. A janazah prayer, buried facing Mecca, the whole thing. And we didn't do any of it. We gave him a full Catholic mass. Buried him in the plot next to my grandparents in the Catholic cemetery outside Joliet. We did the exact opposite of what he asked for in this second will. I couldn't tell if I felt guilty or betrayed. I called the family lawyer the next morning, Mr. Halvorson. He'd been with us for years. Helped settle my granddad's estate, knew my dad well. I told him about the second will. He paused for a long time, then said, "That's not possible." "It's real," I said. "I saw it. I can send it to you." He agreed to meet the next day. I brought printed copies, the email, everything. He read it slowly, his finger tracing the lines like he was reading a foreign language. Then he leaned back in his chair and said, "This changes everything. Turns out, the new will could override parts of the original, especially if it's dated more recently and has proper witnesses." Farah's version had both. But it wasn't just about burial instructions. There was money involved. My dad had opened a separate account a few months before he died, a private account Farah didn't touch, but which he left instructions for. That account had $38,000 in it. And guess who he named as beneficiary? Not my mom. Not me. Not my siblings. Nor, the daughter of the woman he reconnected with. The woman who, apparently, was more than just an old flame. I lost it. I stood up in Halvorson's office and said, "Are you serious?" "She's not even family," I said. He shrugged. "If this will holds up, then legally, she kind of is." I stormed out. That night, I confronted Farah over the phone. "You're telling me he left my sister out and gave money to your daughter?" "He wanted to help her," she said. "She's applying to medical school." He believed in her. I nearly threw my phone across the room. My mom cried for hours after I told her. My brother didn't say a word, just walked out again. My sister, though, she was the one who lost it. She sent an email to every relative, every family friend, even Father O'Malley, calling my dad a liar, a cheater, a coward. I told her to take it down. She didn't. The fallout started fast. Uncle Richard got hold of the second will. He called it a fake, said it was Muslim propaganda, and tried to get a lawyer to block any legal action. But Halvorson said it wasn't fake. Not unless we could prove my dad was mentally unfit or coerced. And then came the biggest twist of all. Nor sent me a DNA test. She'd ordered it from one of those home testing kits a few weeks after my dad died, just to see, out of curiosity. The result? My dad was her biological father. She attached the results. 49.8% shared DNA. Paternal match, strong. I sat in my car reading that email for an hour. She wasn't just Farah's daughter. She was my half-sister. I felt like my lungs stopped working. Everything made sense now. The money, the will, the secrecy. My dad had reconnected with his other daughter, and none of us knew she existed. I showed it to my mom. She looked at it, said nothing, just nodded slowly and whispered, "I always wondered." Wondered what? She hesitated, then said, "There was a period early in our marriage. Before you were born. He left for 3 months. Said he was helping an old army friend who was sick. He never talked about it again." I realized then he had known all along. He had a second daughter, a second family, in secret. Maybe he'd buried it for years. Maybe he thought it was over. But when he reconnected with Farah, it all came rushing back. And here we were now. 1 funeral, 2 wills, 3 children from 2 women, and a family falling apart in every direction. And still, I couldn't hate him. Not completely. He had made a mistake. Maybe a lot of them. But Noor? She hadn't asked for any of this. And in her emails, in her voice, I could tell she missed him too. She hadn't come for revenge. She hadn't demanded anything. She just wanted to know him. And she never got the chance. But I wasn't the only one who got the DNA test results. Uncle Richard saw them, too. And his reaction? He drove to Farah's house in Michigan. When Uncle Richard got the DNA results, he didn't call, didn't text, just got in his car and drove straight to Dearborn. He didn't tell anyone, not even Aunt Colleen. She found out when she realized he hadn't come home and checked his location on the iPad they shared. I only found out when Noor called me. She was crying. "He came here," she said, voice trembling, "to my mom's house. He screamed at her in the street. What? I stood up. Is she okay? She's shaken. I am too. He called her names. Said my dad was weak. Said this was all a scam. I jumped in my car and drove the 4.5 hours from Chicago to Michigan that same night. By the time I got there, it was almost 11 p.m. Farah was sitting on the porch with a blanket wrapped around her shoulders. Noor was pacing in the driveway, arms crossed tight. I walked up and hugged her. She looked shocked. You're not mad? She asked. I don't even know what I am anymore, I said. But I'm not mad at you. She nodded and started crying again. Inside, Farah sat me down and told me everything. In detail. The long letters my father wrote her when she was pregnant. How her parents refused to let her marry him. How she raised Noor alone, always telling her that her father had done the best he could, given the circumstances. And then, after 30 years, he came back. He didn't come to break your family, she said quietly. He came to be honest before he died. He just wanted to see her, know her, even if it was late. I believed her. And that night, I didn't feel anger. I felt grief. A different kind of grief. Like I was mourning a man I thought I knew, but now had to meet all over again through other people's memories. But that peace didn't last long. 2 days later, we held a family meeting. My mom asked for it. She said, we need to face this as a family. It was at our house. My siblings came. Uncle Richard, Aunt Colleen, even Father O'Malley by invitation. And I brought Noor. The room got ice cold the second she walked in. My sister's eyes narrowed. Uncle Richard stood up, didn't say a word, and walked to the far corner of the living room. My mom stayed calm. Always the diplomat. She started it off. We're here because there's truth now. Not just rumors or feelings. Actual truth. And it hurts. But we have to face it. My sister snapped. You're acting like this is normal. Like it's fine he had a whole other daughter. Noor flinched. I stepped forward. She's not the one who lied. And what about you? My sister shot back. Since when are you suddenly Team Farah? I'm not on a team, I said. I'm just tired of pretending this didn't happen. Uncle Richard finally exploded. He betrayed all of us. Our beliefs. Our blood. And you're siding with them? He pointed at Noor. She looked down. Father O'Malley stepped in. Richard, enough. No, I won't sit here and act like this is okay. Then my mother stood up. He told me everything. I knew about Noor. I knew about Farah. I knew he changed his faith. And yes, I lied. I lied to protect you. That shut everyone up. My sister stared at her. You knew and never said anything? I was going to, my mom said, voice cracking. He asked me not to. He didn't want a war. He didn't want to hurt you. And yet, here we are, my brother said quietly. Noor started to speak. She said she wasn't here for money. That she never wanted to replace anyone. She just wanted a seat at the table. A picture. A story. A piece of the man who was her father too. Nobody responded. After a few more tense moments, Aunt Colleen broke the silence. He was human. That's all I'll say. Then she left. One by one, others did too. My sister walked out without saying another word. My brother stayed silent, eyes empty. Uncle Richard was the last to leave. You disgrace him, he muttered to me on his way out. No, I replied. I'm finally seeing him for who he really was. That's not disgrace. That's honesty. The second will was never contested. Farah let it go. She didn't want the money. She said Noor deserved the truth, not the inheritance. We split the account 3 ways, me, my sister, and my brother. But none of us felt right spending it. I donated mine. My sister and mom still barely speak. My brother moved to Seattle. Said he needed distance. I stayed. Noor and I meet every month now. She brings photos. Questions. We talk about our dad. Sometimes I bring up stuff he used to say or the way he laughed. And sometimes she tells me how he'd tear up when he talked about missing her childhood. We're not close yet. But we're getting there. I don't know if I've forgiven him yet. Maybe I never will. But I've stopped pretending he was perfect. My dad was complicated. He made choices that hurt people. He also tried to make them right before it was too late. He didn't succeed. But he tried. And maybe that's the only truth I can live with now. I used to think betrayal was black and white. It's not. It's shades of grief, love, failure, and silence. And in the end, all we can do is try to understand the people we thought we knew, even if they left this world with half their story untold. And maybe that's the lesson. Some truths don't come in time, but they still matter, even if they arrive too late.